Namaste and a very good evening to everyone present on the YouTube of Chamber for Service Industry GS Motivator channel. And we are here to talk on challenges in school education. When we talk about a digital inspirational lab and when we talk about inspiration and skills development and making education and skills relevant, it is very much important to understand not only for the entire education system, which includes educators, students, the youth, their another stakeholders, their parents, and the counselor, everyone. It is very important to understand this particular challenge that present time school education is facing. And to talk on to this, today we have with us very distinguished guest for the evening, Mr. Anil Kumar Gade, uh, who is also uh, known as Anil G. He's a psychologist and a sustainable and green enterprise development consultant. Before I hand over the platform to him, let me just go through a slide of his introduction so that uh, we should know this gentleman more in detail. He's doing a fantastic work for the school education, for mental health, stress management, and many more things. So, prefer to be called as human. Anil Ji is a social work graduate. Subsequently, he did his master's in psychology, mass communication, and journalism, environmental sciences, and engaged in sustainable tourism interventions to quench his thirst in sustainable human development. He is exposed to various domains of social problems and has experience in conflict resolution as an extra feather. With his understanding of individual personalities and society, he moved into corporate world as trainer and entrepreneurship development consultant at large. Experiences like training 108, 104 staff, university students, young innovators, and startup CEOs on skills development, career planning, team building, and creative thinking makes him decent trainer to present here. His experience in managing suicide prevention lifeline since 2004 under Psychologist for social responsibility initiatives, continuously attaching himself to clarion calls of societal needs. He served as a psychologist consultant with Navodaya Vidyalaya Samiti, Ministry of HRD during COVID-19 pandemic for addressing challenges in school systems, etc. So, with this, we can say that this particular topic to talk with Mr. Anil Ji is very appropriate. And now we are going straight away to Mr. Anil Ji to talk more onto this particular topic. Welcome, sir. Welcome to this particular webinar. And we are grateful that you have given us your time to talk onto this very relevant topic. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the industry association, which has actually given a platform to interact with a lot of school students and school faculty. And maybe this is one juncture wherein we can make the future ready kind of, people by working with the schools. And I have been associated with schools for maybe around 20 years, so far. Maybe if you start while I was doing my study itself, I was working with a lot of schools in the correctional setup. So that is the first correctional setup I worked in is in Hyderabad itself, wherein we used to work with children who are like apprehended by the police, and they were kept in into the juvenile homes for correctional social work. So though it looks like a correctional social work, it was more about the education and doing a reformative kind of activity there, where children will learn what mistakes they have done and maybe how to get out of that kind of particular behavior pattern. So it is more linked to the education to know the subject and the occasional skills as well as the behavior pattern. And the reason why I'm here to talk about this particular session is the need for stressing on the behavioral change models, which need to be really looked up into and taken as a serious challenge by the school system. If we don't do it, maybe at academic front, we might be doing better. We might be talking more about these ranks of different schools and colleges, talking only about the number ones and number twos. But the moral conduct or the people's behavior patterns are not well studied upon. Now, why I have taken furthermore into the behavior pattern thing, is it like only my interest or something, grave situation is there that we need to be really understanding and taking care of it. And here I say, what if the child becomes a deviant personality? What if the child is creating a problematic behavior for his people around? And what if the child himself is not able to cope up with his personality and trying to eliminate himself from this world? And at this juncture, the ultimate step would be to commit a suicide and getting away from this world. So I find this is, like, unless you address it in the initial years of teaching him right way, maybe you won't be able to do the correctional work. That becomes so expensive also over a period of time. So the first thing is to catch them very young, and while they are at their schools, just understand what their needs are, and that will be a kind of grounding factor for you, wherein you can start developing a kind of curriculum in such a way where you can talk about their stress factors, you can talk about their depression reasons, you can talk about what exactly they want in their life, and you can handhold them. By doing a corrective hand-holding process, probably you will be able to show them a proper coping mechanism skills. They'll be able to address gain these kind of skills in the school system itself. And maybe sometimes these schools can also work as a cushions where they will be able to share all the pressures of their house or maybe the society with their schools and school teachers and friends. So if you have got an ecosystem which is very well adapted to receive the information from the kid and help him out, probably he's going to become a better citizen in his next future also. Now I'll just take a few slides. This is around 23 slides of here. Now, rather than more talking about what suicide is and how it is coming up and how it is affecting our families and friends, maybe we'll try to have initially a kind of understanding how suicide is actually impacting the society of India as a whole or the global pattern as a whole. Once we understand that, we'll try to shift to what next to be done. And here I'm not trying to talk about as a government system, maybe as a school system, we'll try to develop on what are the correction measures which are due from many schools so far on suicide prevention itself. Because the way people perceive suicide itself as a stigmatic subject is sometimes, creating a stumbling block in the system itself, wherein not talking doesn't mean the child who is at the edge of, committing suicide the next day is going to stop. And this particular thing is not well understood or received by many of the school staff. And we wanted to really break the ties, and we want to make and sensitize these school staff and administrators to get sensitized for this particular need and try to make ameliorative processes or adjustments in the school system. That will try to take up as a second, chapter in our discussion, wherein how it can be, implemented. So by conducting these two, edges, we might be trying to give some sort of solution that we thought is more prevalent for our Indian system. So let me just open up the slides here.
Sure, sure.
So my first slide is here. Hope everybody is able to see it. Now,
Yes.
in the challenges, the first thing I just mentioned here is not Anil G or not not even as a psychologist, but something I really wanted to teach in the first place, the identity itself. Because, when I wanted to address any of the issues, most of the time I see identity is the one which is actually creating a kind of biased mental set in our own frame of mind, and that is creating so many issues thereafter. So the first thing which I want to address in the whole process is, let us understand from where we are coming from and understand what this particular identity means to us. Once you understand that, probably a lot of biases and the responsive reasons which are going to cause some more elements, like pain in the near future because of those misguided identities, probably we'll be able to address them easily. That's that unbiased identity I'm proposing here is human. So I present myself as human here, and I'm only talking to a lot of human out there who might be listening to this particular session. And our topic of the discussion today would be suicide. Now, the moment when I said suicides, the first question is why we need to actually talk about this. September 10th happens to be the International Suicide Prevention Day. And since 2004, I have been very actively, conducting this particular day as an awareness generation day, so that I can actually talk about this and inform people that there's a need for doing some corrective actions and prevent these suicides happening. And this particular thing has to be spread across people. So this particular journey started, and we started a voluntary helpline also, wherein I'll be receiving calls from a lot of people who might be out there who is completely anonymous to me, but they might be calling at the distress call to get out of their stress factors to avoid suicide in their life. So the reason why I'm once again trying to stress is India is poised at rank of 41 in the world scenario. Now, when I'm saying this world scenario and all, what is this all about? I'm just saying one life itself is invaluable. You can't even count, what is the loss if life is not existing in this world. But then subsequently, if you see to the Indian context, maybe we are losing 1.64, 1,64,000 lives in India itself. So when we are saying one life itself is invaluable, now multiplying it with 1,64,000, I feel maybe somewhere we are not able to understand this math correctly. We are not actually understanding the gravity of the situation, and we are taking this as a for granted kind of scenario. Yeah, I know this is what is going to happen, so it will happen anyway. What we can do. Now, this is where I want to really break this attitude itself. What we can do, I'll say probably we are supposed to do something and we're not doing it judiciously. And that is actually causing this mass issue of suicide to expand its horizons from 1 lakh to 1.64. And it is growing further. Maybe a lot of societal changes are also happening, but at the same time, it is also increasing the size and this bubble of number of people committing suicides. So somewhere we have to actually understand this as a big challenge for Indian system or even the world scenario. Now, this is what I'm saying. This is what the WHO is saying. This is what the world is actually saying. And when I say India, we are ranking somewhere in 44th, but we are taking almost like fourth or fifth chunk of the whole people who die across India, across the globe. Now, this is around 7 lakh people across the globe die. Now, in that, China is another chunk which will take around 50% of the burden, and we are taking another 30%, 40% of the burden. Now, why this is happening? Is it like, can we simply put it to the demographics of, like, okay, now the population is too high, so it will happen as on an average case. And I'm saying maybe that itself is a kind of scenario where we are actually putting this in the back burners and not seriously interested to develop on this. So that attitude itself has to break in. Now, the Indian scenario says in 2021, we actually has reached to the tipping point, which was like mind-boggling. Like somewhere it never happened in the last 10 years of Indian history. That is around 12 people die in every 1 lakh population that we have got. Now, it looks like, not a healthy development for India in itself. Now, you see the age group. Somewhere it starts with a teenage group. Now we see this age of school still exists with this teenage group. Now 14, 13, and the youngest suicide that happened also talks about 9 years of age. Now we might be seeing the early maturity might also be leading that age to drop down further into 10 and 9 also is a very shocking for us. So somewhere this preventive action also has to go hand in hand so that these kind of lives can be saved. And if you see this suicide pattern, 15 to 29, which is going to be the fourth, the particular age group. If you see the fourth largest reason of this particular age group dying, if you see this is suicide is going to be standing as the fourth reason. Second and first usually happens to be like road accidents, but I sometimes even put this road accident also might be part of the behavioral issue itself. So somewhere, unless your behavior patterns are properly corrected, it might lead to a accident. And sometimes it also said an accident is no more an accident. It might be a unconsciously planned or psychological, activity. So somewhere behavior pattern, if it is not properly addressed, it might lead to a road accident sometime. It might be leading to the largest reason for the youth to die in India. Now, this is where we wanted that, somewhere even India has to start working upon, and we need to just go for, one, what you call the corrective actions. And here, the whole session, why it is being conducted at this juncture on the suicides. Maybe the first thing which I want to refer to is, to go back to some of the Panchatantra stories where we talk about the easiest way to inculcate some behavior learnings in us. So in childhood days, I used to remember this three fishes story, which talks about three different fishes they're living in a pond as a friends. All the three are in the same pond, they are sharing the same ecosystem, but if you see their personality factors in a way are differing. The first one is like Sumati, which is more proactive. When the fisherman was trying to come in the summer days, the fishers listen to the story of what the fishermen are actually talking about. They're actually trying to take out, wait for the water to drain in this lake, and after that they want to catch the fish, whichever is going to be like available in that. Now suddenly the Sumati, the one which is like a proactive fish, which will say, now in the next 2 3 months the summer might be completely drying our lake, so I should be going away from this thing. So Sumati takes an advantage, proactive step, and takes the passage into the next lake by going early in its attempt. Now comes to the second one, which will wait for the time for the like fishermen to come and catch it. So even when the fisherman catches, suddenly the spontaneous attitude of this fish actually raises. Now it will act as if it is dying, and subsequently in the act of dying, it will try to escape the fisherman's net. It will go to the next lake. Now there's third fish, which is called as Mandamati, which is having a little what you call dumb behavior of not understanding the ecosystem or not able to follow the requirements of this society, and somehow it got caught by the fisherman and it died. Now, why I just referred this particular case study to the to the present day's context. Now, every of the student whom we are teaching in the class, maybe they are actually falling in these three different categories. And when I'm saying the students, sometimes even fully grown adult may also be caught up in the same personality development process. Some people who are very active, they learned everything that was needed for the life skill. They learned it everything in advance, and they are able to cope up with every challenge of their life. Some people were having a layback kind of attitude. They said, "This is how the life is going to be conducting. It's okay. I'll take the decision when the challenges arrive." Now there are people who are waiting for the challenge to arrive, and if they are spontaneous enough to get the solutions, they will escape the challenge, or else they will also be part of the web itself. Now the last people who are not able to learn this coping mechanism, they are the people who are more prone for these kind of challenging behavior and might be committing suicides or maybe becoming a failure to undergo a lot of stress and depression kind of models. Now talking about these three stories, three fishes story, now this is how the classroom setup look like. Rather than talking about the adults and early adults and even the adult population, we might be restricting our talk to the children itself. Now 13, 12 onwards, I started, projecting this particular discussion is relevant. The reason being because we have already noted the earliest suicide happened for 12 years of a girl. Now we can't even say, now the kids are playing in the ground. We should not be imposing our subject knowledge of suicide onto them. Maybe this is wrong in today's context. Now we should be even meticulously following even a, 8th class students or 7th class student, what kind of thought process they are actually building in them. How, silently they are behaving in their office. Are they having some kind of conflicts with the next neighbors, and are they able to mingle with people, or they are trying to make them alone? So somewhere the observation from teachers has to be there, even with the smallest kids, and sometimes there is also a need for talking about suicides. Now the first thing which I want to break as a kind of notion in our brain is, why honestly you're spoiling a young kid? He might not be having a thought of suicide at all. In his memory, the suicide itself might not be there. And here, the lot of study has been conducted on this particular parameter. And after that, it is concluded. Even if you talk about suicide, it never actually prompts them to commit suicide. Actually, it creates a kind of awareness process. So most of the teachers who are not readily and willingly trying to talk to the kids, maybe this particular study will give you some boost, saying that you have got not like a promptive kind of suicide talk you're giving there. You're trying to talk more about the preventive suicidal what you call activities which are needed for the kid. Maybe this is going to help the kid, not harm the kid. So somewhere it has to start in the school system. Now when we say colleges, it might even enter into the modern age graduation schools also. Now when I see this image, sometimes I feel a lot of funny what you call context. This is how the modern youth or the generation is actually looking like. Most of the people are engaged with their self constructed self. They might be mostly occupied with their own self what you call mobile addiction, or they might be introvert kind of behavior with their own selves, might not be opening up their inner conscience to other people, and not even in spite of having some 10 years of relationship with the next friend, they might not be completely aware of their next friend's interest or hobbies, or what actually causes them what you call sadness. Because I have seen in some of the suicide cases, when we try to actually ask the next colleague, why your friend has tried to attempted this one. Do you know any reason? Suddenly this friend says, no, I was there with this guy for the last 10 years, but I don't know anything about him. So this is a completely challenging dark phase that we are entering into, because people are becoming obsessed with the mobiles and they are not opening up. The communication itself is, though we see that we are communicating too much in the social media culture, I see a lot of actually screens are building up. People say they are in the social media generation, but they're actually becoming more and more introverts. And when they open up on the social media as anonymous than what they are actually in direct visibility. So somewhere this itself is a great what you call gap that we could see. The reality front is actually camouflaged by a virtual world, and sometimes what exactly the kid is inside, you might not be able to know anything. So there's a lot of need for the teachers and counselors and school administration to actually dwell upon this particular issue and understand what the kid is all about, and try to extend the person who is in need a helping hand. And this is where it can't be like a single person's activity, wherein only the principal can't take all the burden, not the counselor alone. It can't be like saying like an activity of it can't be an activity of a mathematical teacher is also very ridiculous, because now it is irrespective of the subject, irrespective of the role that you're actually undergoing. Probably it requires a kind of collective and collaborative effort in terms of addressing this issue as a serious issue, in terms of drafting it, in terms of creating some kind of protocols for operating the school, and at the same time, helping the students who is in need. It can't be only an activity of a counselor or a psychologist in the school, and it can't be simply put in their basket. And I've seen this is the trend which the schools are actually following, because the awareness itself is not there in the staff members. Now we just go back to a lot of stress has started coming up on mental health in the very recent days, maybe because of the COVID pandemic. Because earlier people were in their own world and psychology aspect was not well discussed upon, and people were not really putting efforts in terms of understanding the next neighbor. But all of a sudden this psychological parameter and the discussion of psychology became very high during the COVID phase, because people were forced to live in isolation, and all of a sudden this loneliness has been given as a blessing for them. Now they can't go out of their rooms and cubicles, and they are confined to their four-room walls and not even supposed to interact with people. And provided if you have got the infection already in you, then you are supposed to be isolating, quarantining yourself for 45 to 60 days. Now this is not like a one-person story. This happens to be the story of billions in this world. Now that created suddenly a kind of spike on the cases of depression, case of stress, a case of loneliness. And now the surprising thing is most of these deaths were actually calculated under a million deaths under COVID's canopy. But I'm not really sure how many of them have actually died because of their psychological shortfalls. Example, the COVID might not have killed you, but maybe your stress might have killed you, or else your fears might have killed you. And this is the COVID scenario, wherein even the Ministry of HRD started feeling the need for injecting psychologists and mental health professionals into school system. And during that time, almost every of the market activity was almost like null and void. So I started taking my hat as a psychologist and started working with the Ministry of MHRD. And we were working with the Navodaya schools, which is around 600 schools conglomerate. We were teaching these psychologists how to actually interact with the school system, and convince the school principals and other people to accept psychologists as an important role. And it has been a big challenge for all the psychologists who were placed, because school system was saying, what is the need of a psychologist? What is the need of a mental health professional in a school setup? We don't require them. Actually, I am also a psychologist. I am also a good counselor. I don't require. So there was a kind of professional conflict of interest, which was actually projected by the school teachers who said that they are educated, but somehow it was not reflected in their verbatim or somewhere in their practice. So maybe at least initial 6 to 8 months were actually built by the psychologist only to convince the school system that there is a need, and to adjust themselves into the system. So this particular thing should not be repeated in the due course of time. Maybe this is where the school administration themselves have to come forth for recruiting the psychologists and taking their necessary changes in the school teachers mindset, so that they can be properly placed and executing their activity. Now we see this particular second line, which talks about the suicides in India is actually no more like a criminal offense. If at all somebody is caught attempting a suicide. Earlier, it used to be like a criminal offense. He's even asked to go behind the bars. But after 2017, this particular thing has been waived off. Now this is no more like a criminal activity. And at the same time, still the police will come and they'll try to report this particular incident, because they wanted that to be reported under the probability of suicidal behavior, as well as the possibility of the next suicidal, the projected case study for a suicide. Now, in this particular model, the ADSI in India actually gives the numbers, how many deaths are happening. Now, I mentioned here not the suicide numbers here, but subsequently, I just wanted to even talk a little about the accidents, because suicides will happen in various models. The modality of suicide could be a hanging or a suffocation, or inhaling some kind of toxic gases, or eating some kind of what you call chemical substances, and it could be violent way also, sometimes cutting the lot of like nerves and all stuff. So rather than this, only talking about suicide, I started even dwelling upon the accidental parameters. Now, the moment I touch upon accident, it might be, like in psychology, there's a saying, no accident is an accident. It might be unconsciously planned activity, and this is something like a very shocking, what you call understanding that we need to be dwelling upon. If you are stressed out, if you're not able to concentrate, if you are having anger projection, if you wanted to just, take some rage on someone, maybe that is reflected on your behavior. Somewhere it is going to show its implication. So if you're not having a peaceful mind, maybe while you're driving in car, you will caught up with two, three what you call accidents on the road, and they will end up into fights. Now, sometimes if you are too much in your anger, and if you're going with a lot of rage or excitement, which is a little bit of not able to calculate the risk factors involved in the speedy driving and all, even these things can be linked to at least 13.7% of behaviors, which are psychological behavior patterns, which are also linked to suicide as well as the accidents. So now I'm saying 1.5 lakh deaths in a year. That is almost like 47 accidents and 18 deaths per hour. Now, when it comes to suicides, globally it is around one suicide in every 40 seconds. When it comes to India, it might be around what you call one suicides in every 1 hour. So somewhere there's a kind of great link or a correlation between the psychological behavior and suicides and the accidents. Now, during the COVID, not many people talked about suicides, because, but still I perceive there might be a number of suicides which are not reported, because that was not the focus area at all during the COVID death counting. Now, after COVID, the serious effort started on psychological behavior. Subsequently, the seriousness has started increasing on focusing on the count of deaths which are happening on suicide. Now, people were already forced to stay in what you call in their shells, and in quarantine what you call rooms. These people already underwent a lot of stress and trauma, and these people sometimes even lost their close ones, where the bereavement was not able to share, and they were not even able to see the dead people's body. So that was actually suffocating those personalities, and many of the suicides actually started projecting increased in these 2 years of time. And that's where in 2024 we see the highest number in the decade of time has been touched in 2021. Now that's around 3.17 lakh suicides. Now, this is not a small number. So I'm trying to indicate 3.17 might be still a big number. But what if I tell you out of 20 attempts that people make, only one gets succeeded? So I will prefer to saying, if at all it is 3 lakh, 3.17 lakh, what you call suicide, which were reported, maybe into 20, that might be around 60 lakh or 70 lakh people might have actually attempted it, but they failed. Somehow, maybe the rope got cut, or someone have come and rescued them. Maybe they're, like some kind of, help was there. They were able to, like save themselves. But what if all these 60, 70,000, lakh people who are attempting becomes a success? Now see the kind of youth which might went missing in this world. Suddenly, India might become a kind of, having no youth kind of India. And if you see in that again, around 200 people who actually get this stressed out scenario, who really wanted to commit suicide, and might have thought someday that they want to commit suicide, but only in that, only 10% of people might have seriously attempted. In the sense, the mental health which is actually affecting the people to commit suicides, that behavior might be even into 2-3 crore population. So 2-3 crore population's mindset, if we are not able to work properly with the existing school setup, maybe we are actually waiting for the big bomb to explode. That's where we need to actually work in the school system itself to address on the mental health regime, and subsequently work on suicide prevention. Now we will go to the other country example so that we can get some kind of comparative analysis. Is suicide, is it like only in Indian scenario, or is the developed nations doesn't have it? No, somewhere we have seen it is most linked to behavior than the development in only one parameter called economics, because Greenland tops the world's top ranking in terms of suicides, wherein India loses around 12 people for 1 lakh population. Greenland actually projects around 1.107 deaths per 1 lakh population. Now you see almost it is like 10 times of the population that what you call probability of deaths per 1 lakh is happening in Greenland. Though it is like a what you call in European nation, people might be rich in that place. Somewhere the reasons were actually linked to the behavior problems. This might be mostly related to the substance abuse. Now I put substance abuse as a front runner than the depression, because depression people very easily know that yes, because of depression and suicide, depression and stress, suicide tend to happen. But no, because of your decision making ability, if it is lacking, and that's where I say the consciousness, if you are not able to maintain properly, and that's where the substance abuse like alcohol or any other drugs or any other addiction, if it is there, then the chance of you getting into suicidal behavior and even attempting and even getting successful becomes sometimes like 14 to 15% increased. And this is reflected not in our Indian case itself, but even in the Greenland scenario. And conflicts in the relationship is something which I'm projecting for the modern world, because people started subscribing a lot of philosophies from the social media, wherein the relationships were taken for granted, maybe getting into a relationship easily and easily coming out of it, finding that they are able to manage it, but subsequently there was a kind of trauma which is left over because of the memories which were stored in their brain. Now they are not able to counter them or give a justification to those memories, and they haunt. Now these relationship traumas also becoming kind of issue in terms of committing suicides. Now the parental homes, because of the modern tendency of live in relationship and having the single parents. Now these are the setups when the children were not also able to get the right help. Apart from that, even the elderly people also getting into suicidal tendencies. I might touch upon some aspects here, the relationship in a big way, because in Indian context, we see a lot of men in this particular age group, adulthood, committing suicide, which is almost like 4 times than females, because of the marital disputes, getting successfully completing the suicides. When the females attempts in large number, but the attempt is not, ending with a kind of successful suicide. They might be saved, or their effort might not be so serious. So somewhere the family structure, if it is damaging, it is not just damaging the family structure alone. It might be causing a lot of stress for the male members in the family, and that might be leading to a lot of men's death. So these are also linked somewhere to the economic reasons too. However, the family relations are the ones which are actually given like the cushions. If that cushion is not properly working well, probably these things are leading to a lot of men's death in India. Now, finally, I just conclude in the statement saying 13.7%. These percentages might vary, but still 13, 14, 15% approximately are linked to psychological disorders. So we should be conscious in terms of what kind of decisions we are taking up. Now, even if we come back to India or any other country, if you're going back to, what are the reasons? Is it only stress or depression, or where actually they are originating from? Now, this is where we actually need to understand we are only an individual who is actually a psychological built kind of personality. We are possessed with this physical body. However, we are actually influenced by a lot of ecosystems around us. And unless we actually see every ecosystem functions properly, the complex nature of suicide cannot be addressed only by the school itself. However, school can give you the insight of how to work with these individual domains so that child will be prepared in every domain to face in the next near future, and still come as a face up in this journey. So here I just mentioned about some of these regions which are like in social exam. Many of these people might be writing socio-economical, cultural, political, but mind you, these are the kind of influences which are there on individual personality built up. And in psychology, we call them as nature and nurture. As a biological being, you might be a nature. However, there are n number of parameters in nurture which might be impacting you. Just to quote few of them, if you don't have an employment, then your economic activity is actually forcing you to get into some kind of stress. Now, if you are underemployed or not able to get your right job, or not able to get a continuous income to support your family structure, this might be a problem. Now, when we say culture, maybe if you are in a culture where you're not supposed to share your pain with other people as a patriarchal community, then somewhere you are actually becoming a kind of pressure cooker with built up emotions in you. Someday it might be triggering it up. So culture also has got an political, lot of political reasons. Now we see people started, working for some, sorry to, yeah. So some of these political reasons where people are actually motivated for different reasons. Now people take up that political philosophies into their brain. They also commit suicides. Health is one of the biggest reason in some of these hilly regions. Example, if you're in a hilly region, you definitely should have a proper what you call body strength. Otherwise, you can't climb up and down. So the moment you reach to certain age, maybe your health will force you to say, okay, now my time is up. I should commit suicide. So these are the tendencies which are globally studied. And when we go to these examinations, this is more specific for students. And I just mentioned a kind of rainbow of all these parameters, and I'm just trying to indicate the country's name might be different, but these complexity of these origin of the issues might almost the same. Now suddenly, if you see the trends, even the trends might be changing a little on the male female ratio or rich or poor ratio or the age group, but somehow the reasons again come back to the same thing called depression, stress. However, I just highlighted something how the process is actually going, downwards. The moment you have got some kind of psychological distress in you, it is actually creating some kind of understanding in you saying that now nobody is going to help me out. And this is where you actually need to understand subject knowing is different and the ability to implement is different. People are learning these things in social media, like a lot of stuff. There's nothing that is not there in YouTube. However, people still are not able to possess the ability to cope up themselves. Now they try with the next neighbor. Somewhere they are not able to create the trust factor in there. Somewhere they are finding, in spite of having in midst of this 8 billion population, they still feel they are lonely. They still have got into some relationship, but they still feel no, this relationship is not fulfilling. So the contentment is never being achieved. And when they're sharing, they're always saying there's a complaint saying that no, I can't trust this person. So, and on top of that, a lot of insecurities because of the cyber world and all stuff. Suddenly society started becoming, though it is like a huge population, highly populous country, still people feel that they are lonely. And finally, desperately crying for help. This never found its answers. And all the people who might have committed suicide in the last few years or in the last day itself, they might be the case of a desperately crying for help kind of case study. Hold for a second.
I request if you can have a glass of water. That
yeah, maybe, you can give some reflection in the meanwhile so that I can relax. So far, is it like you're able to understand and follow?
Yeah, sure. You can have a glass of water and then we can continue with that. So, the insight that Mr. Anil ji has given us till now, they are really realistic, to be honest. In the meanwhile, till he's coming, I would like to read some of the reviews that have come from the live audience, and they are really relating to what our guest for the evening is saying. And wonderfully, people have written that some very small states have big number of suicide cases among youth, which is deep concern, and it is important to create awareness to prevent suicides especially in the young generation. And no matter what happens or how bad it seems today, life does go on and it will be better tomorrow. With this belief, we should move on. And emotional well-being is very much necessary. These all remarks we have, it has been written by our lovely audience on the live chat. And they are also writing, they are relating to whatever you are saying, that because they are saying this is really vital information that we are getting. Mental wellness is necessary for individual health also. So we can continue with our talk.
Yeah. Thank you. In fact, I'm actually blessed with the cold these days and even cough. So I thought I'll not take these sessions in the next few months, but it might be delayed because there was a good activity that has to be conducted. And suicide prevention happens to be very close to my heart. And if you are silent today, you're finding as it as a reason that I got a cold, so or cough, so I should not be talking about it. Maybe it might result to something drastic outside. So in that model, I can't say no to any session which is on suicide prevention. Now, with last statement which I've written in red, is what I want people to really reflect upon. If someone in your neighborhood is finding that there is no one who is going to help me out, and if they are committing suicides, and this is where your actual relativity has to come into place. You can't say it is he died or she died or someone died. It is like why your existence did not made or could not make an impact that they are able to stop their suicides or postpone their suicide and come back to you to share their things.
Uh, Mr. Anilji, we cannot hear you. Now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
maybe the internet connection was
Ji,
not
ji,
stable.
ji,
Yeah.
ji,
So I'm
ji,
just
ji.
trying to indicate, if your next neighbor is committing suicides, then it is we who has to actually start empathizing that and start feeling little responsible somewhere. Why my presence could not give him a confidence to come to me and share. And this also gives a reflection. Are we seriously interested in our next neighbor to go and listen to them? And if there is an issue, to help them out. So that last line actually prompts people to see why people are crying for help when this many people, lakhs and millions of people are still existing around. Coming back to school, now the question comes, suicide is a big thing. We have to be active on it or proactive on it. We should work on it because someone is crying for help. It's all good. Now the question comes, why suddenly, unnecessarily we need to take one more activity because so much of syllabus is pending, so much of grades to be achieved, so many kids to be recruited for these admissions, then suddenly why this particular activity has to be, taken as a serious case. I just put in these three, four stuffs actually, which are important, wherein I'm just asking people, just like you do this fire preparations in your school or building protocol, construction protocols that you need to take as per the building
Right.
regulations. Do you have got the safe schools in terms of their mental health also? So if your school is not safe, this is the fundamental building block for the whole school system is what I perceive. Because when I started working in the school system during COVID, the parents used to come back, right? And they used to ask for grades every time. And I definitely agree on that. But the moment I used to tell them, mind you, do you want your kid to be really having a morally constructed personality who's going to face any kind of unforeseen challenges and he's going to come back as a resilient personality, or else you want some person who is achieving a lot of grades but might be so weak in the psychological front, he might be knocked down by anybody in the outside market. Sometimes he might even commit suicide. Then the first thing people ask is, no, my kid needs to be safe. He should not get into any accident. He should not go and go out of the school compound. So security becomes the utmost parameter for parents. That's for sure. Now, in that, school system also need to take care of the suicide as one of the component. And second thing is, if your mental health is not right, do you think the kid is going to perform on academics just because you taught something like maths and all stuff? Or else there's also need for mental health, for good academics. And I really, give you some case study here, wherein if you study, people who are having what you call mental health issues. Now you see their performance. Maybe out of five, only one is doing good. Example, I might be an odd personality on the mental health. I might be angry person, stressed out, everything, but I still might be doing good. On the other contrary, if someone who is not having a mental health issue, in that out of five students who are not having mental health, there might be four students who might be doing better. Now, if you see the number wise, it's a real good impact which is going to cause on the academic what you call front. So we also need to take care of the mental health in the front place. And the people expectation on the mental health from parents also, when we discuss about the disciplinary action, the moral building, even the kids and parents, they are seriously nowadays concerning about being a good student and good at what you call dealing with their parents and friends than only achieving the marks. So people wanted my son should be carrying me at the end of this journey, not only with marks. So when we actually make them realize, the parents are actually more willing to buy the real good conduct of the kid than only marks alone. So it is like how teachers are able to, you know, drive through the parents' understanding about the importance of mental health is what actually, important and projected here. And then finally, we see this legal complication. If a small activity of negative activity like suicide happening in your school compound, or the student dying somewhere else, it is reflecting actually on the school's culture itself. Then somewhere there's also legal parameters involved in it. What was the reason why it happened? Now, obviously, if you really wanted your schools to be sustainable, not having a long-term negative remarks, then maybe you should take this as a serious activity. Now, if you don't address suicide, then problem is, if one suicide happens somewhere in the vicinity of the school, it could be in the village, it could be in the next school, or somewhere it might be in the TV or some other place. People, unless they find the reasons to go back to and resort to and get resolve their issues, the kid might start feeling, okay, now there's no one in that school. Just the same is the case for me also. I don't think in this particular system someone is going to help the school what you call school kid with these kind of problems. So even I need to take the similar decision. So if you don't communicate, they communicate internally by seeing people around or the systems around and grabbing something consciously as they wish for. So somewhere, if your communication is not there, their communication might be halfway through. They might take very bad decisions. So this contagious cluster effect, if you want to break it, somewhere you should talk about suicide, because somewhere the examinations of 10th or intermediate, 11th and 12th, when they come up, a lot of suicide happens. Now I'm just asking, why not the school is able to really educate freehand itself? If you get less marks, it should not mean that you are less effective in the life. So it is not like losing the life itself. So somewhere that education which is preemptive is not really happening. Now the expectation of school connectedness. Finally, when it comes to the delivery part, they're able to make a kid who is able to connect with the kids, what you call their parents properly. If he's able to conduct himself well with this ecosystem and even the people around, then it shows the overall development of the kid. So it is not only about the marks, but the way the school is able to connect with the kid and the kid is able to connect with his entire ecosystem actually is one of the big parameters that people can actually showcase them as the achievement of the school. So somewhere, because of all these reasons, we wanted the suicide prevention activity plan development can start taking shape in the school itself with the engagement of all the stakeholders. Now, what is this task is all about? Is it like a big task, someone which is going to take millions of rupees into it? I mean, I think maybe our half-hearted thoughts, wherein we are scared of suicide, or else we are not interested to talk and stigmatize so much about suicide, so we don't want to talk about it. But there's a big problem here, because if we don't talk, it doesn't mean the suicide is going to stop there. It will anyway come with more vigorous shape. So the first thing is, we should be able to break your own stigma and start talking about it. The moment you talk, you will find there are not like millions of dollars you are going to spend on it. There are only 2 or 3 tasks that you need to engage in with. One is how to prevent the possible risk of suicide by educating them. See, there are only 2 tasks listed here. And the second thing is, what if some way the suicide was reported, and how the school and the kid has to respond back to it. So these are only 2 simple agendas that we can actually do it. So that's what happens when you think and start calculating the works that is pending. You might realize to your surprise there are only 2 things that you are supposed to do it. Now, how to do it? It's so easy. It is like our conscious team effort that we, somewhere the leaders have got a bigger role here. In my schools also, when I used to go for the school visits, I used to see if the principal or the vice principal are taking these reins of the whole game, then the whole school is ready to work with them. If they themselves are not convinced, if some of the senior teachers are not convinced, then it goes for a havoc. So somewhere anybody who want to make a change or difference, he can't run the whole what you call marathon all alone. It requires a kind of helping hand every time coming in between. So that's where it's better it comes from the top management, and the decision is actually invited from the other teachers, so that the school ecosystem will work hand in hand with very less friction in between. So maybe that that is going to be the starting point. So the consensus building, wherein every staff has to come into agreement. Yes, there is a need. We can actually develop this kind of protocol based checklist or some kind of practice for our school. Once that happens, we actually need to help in terms of developing the checklist for what kind of risks are possible for our schools and what all timing it might happen. So we should start from the point of the children, start uh, creating or identifying the gap areas where this particular behavior might come up. Example, there are some kind of broken family. Now it might result to it. So when you're doing this demographic mapping of the student, or the admission is happening, you can actually calculate with little more information about the family structure. So your entry of the student system becomes more research oriented. Now the second thing is when there's in response to the death. So if at all there is any death which is happening suddenly, it can't be made as a big issue in the school or presented in such a way wherein something very drastic that happened, rather than educating the kids not to react or overreact and get into a lot of emotional baggage and develop into that. So that protocols can also be developed. And when it comes to education, we talk most of the time about life skills, wherein people will be the children has to be blessed with the decision making power. Whenever there's a conflict, we need to tell them that the conflicts are very normal. We should actually work on how to resolve it amicably with a dialogue than taking a kind of hasty decisions. So these life skills are mentioned in the next few slides. So we'll just go for the education. For the school children might be life skills, but the same thing can also be applied for teachers. And for teachers, there's also more need for sensitizing towards suicide. So teachers has got even more agenda to be completing. For students, it might be only life skills. Now, parents, at one end, we see a lot of expectations from parents is another big challenge for school teachers too. Wherein, in spite of getting 90 marks, they'll say my children's handwriting is not good. What you're doing is cool. So somewhere their expectations are like becoming too much. So educating the parents also is needed, and how to conduct the kind of teacher training, teacher and parent, sorry, teacher parent kind of interactions and meetings regularly, so that we can actually have a kind of follow up with the school, school what you call children, give what kind of progress he is making. Is he doing good nowadays in the school, or else anything in the family which is actually impacting his performance? So there's a kind of conscious observation of at least 10 students per one teacher can happen. That will be helping in terms of even screening the people in advance, and try to help them whenever they are actually having an extra what you call need. And here the ecosystem will include a lot of people, not like one person, and I don't want to miss anybody, so I listed every other possible person, including the watchman. It could be a kind of person who is an attendant. So the observation come from anybody. They can actually work hand in hand to inform the right people in right time. It looks like this kid is actually not attending the playground. He's sitting in the class for long hours. This could be a message which might be given by an attendant. A school nurse who might be able to guess the student's health, saying that he is having a problem in the health, he might not be able to score well in the cricket, should be preempted and informed to the principal. And subsequently, the student has to be prepared how, in spite of not participating in the game, not able to perform well in your cricket game, still you can be feel happy because it is not your fault. Somewhere there's a kind of hand-in-hand approach that is needed from every other school staff. Now, school staff is not alone enough. There are ecosystems we talked about. Somewhere the nearest hospitals we should be in touch with, the sports authorities. Sorry. Maybe I need to shorten this one because my cough is not actually letting me talk a bit louder. So
We can understand, sir. No worries. We can understand that. Please take care of yourself.
so just I'll mention three of these slides.
G.
Risk factors. I told you, if you have got a behavior problems or a family problem, it is going to have some impact on your mental health. So be
Yes.
aware of it, and these are the list of things which might be decent enough in terms of connecting the dots. Anything that you have got like bullying is one of the biggest things that I want to mention here. Many times kids find this like a funny activity, but there's no more a fun for people who are receiving at the receiving end. So somewhere it should be taken a little seriously, and people should be taught what kind of implications it might have in appropriate sessions. So it can't be only the academic sessions. It could be a kind of risk factor analysis kind of sessions that the teachers has to engage with the kids. When we are actually planning in the school, maybe call everybody as a stakeholder to one particular place, start describing this is the kind of planning approach that we are going to take up, and this is mentioned here. We need to take up the goals, saying that what are the goals we are going to achieve. Example, if there are 4 people who are using the pills or a medication test, maybe if they are able to get rid of their pills the next 6 months time, it's still great. One of the kid who is not able to sleep well in the late nights, maybe because of insomnia, if he's able to manage his time cycle for sleep, still it is great. The same way we can actually create some of the long-term and short-term plans, and subsequently do a lot of these. Yeah, this is the life skill education, wherein in fact this is way back in 1980s. The UN agenda has put forth these things. UNESCO was very strong in terms of advocating these things, and during my college days I used to study life skills as an important curriculum that has to be for kids. And now it did not change, and it has become more relevant for these modern digital days, wherein the creativity is more what you call more in demand, and problems are more because of the complexity of the problem, what you call situations out there also, or like also challenging. Now out of all the conflicting situations and the complexities out there, decision making power is not matching up to it. And if you are not able to create the energy which is needed psychologically to run for those stuff, probably you will be lagging back, and that will create a kind of pent up emotions and stress, and it creates a kind of plethora of personality factors subsequently. So people have to take separate agendas of teaching these skills in their academic agenda itself, and subsequently even teachers also are supposed to undergo this kind of training. Now, the proactive factors could be, we should have a mental health related person in our school setup, maybe as a visiting faculty, need not be talking directly on to what depression is, what stress is all about. He could be a kind of storyteller who will come into the class now and then. We'll talk about some amazing stories, try to teach the personality through the stories itself. So there are a lot of creative approaches which are possible there. Now,
Right.
yeah, even example, I'm just giving it example. If there's a broken family, and this is a lot of times in school setups, it is like stigmatized. The kids will get a lot of what you call mistreatment in the school. Now, what if a school teacher who is like mental health professional or anybody comes in and start explaining the scenarios of modern families, and they try to take the superficial outlook of what kind of what you call challenges the kid might be facing with their kind of family setup and even in the school setup. In the process, maybe the kids' needs can also be addressed indirectly. So, like that, there's a creative model that can be taken up, and a lot of these activities are already listed in a lot of these psychological journals. So, these activity planning can be implemented in schools to make the difference which is needed for suicide prevention. Now, if you see the last slide which I mentioned about is, people are crying for help is actually indication that they're actually indicating that they are able to commit suicide. So these warning signs are very much visible. Only thing is you should have that observant or vigilant eye. So the teacher should be having listening ears, what we call it as.
Mhm.
So if someone is talking about death, or someone is making comments saying that nobody is going to help me and all, it can't be simply negated saying that okay, kids are talking in midst of them, I need not engage with them. That kind of what you call indifference should not be shown by teachers or even the what you call staff in the school. They should immediately grasp these kind of small indicators and try to do some kind of introspection to what is happening with the kid. Maybe trying to take a little bit of approach in terms of understanding the kid by observation, and little information taking, feedback taking could be helpful. However, there's some gap I just want to indicate. It can't go as a investigative model. I'm just trying to indicate the subject of psychology, but it is something like a kind of missile in the hand. If you don't handle it properly, it might backfire. So I'm just saying, I'm asking, go to the kid and try to understand and get a lot of information about the kid. Can't be with an authoritative approach, or else it can't be like an investigative approach. It should be very, like congenially and conducive to the kid's thoughts itself. He should not feel that someone is actually doing a back, what you call, history taking about me. Their insecurities should not be triggered. So this particular model, if they are able to study, these indications actually indicate you what is the probability and how seriously he's dropping into this kind of warning behavior. Finally, if you ask me, the UN and even the what you call the World Suicide Prevention Organization, they talk about so simple kind of slide wherein they just talk about these things. Keep asking, and the moment I say ask, it actually underlines have an interest in the next neighbor. If you don't have that interest itself, why you will ask? So there's a modern, social media write-ups these days. People talk about, this uncle asked me where I'm going, how I'm doing, and people are, like maybe the modern kids are more crazy about this stuff, and they start saying, he's mad about my what you call nuance. I don't want this guy to ask me anything. So it is a new culture which is building up. They show a different path in there. They are in a way, though they might be asking some critical question which might not be so suitable to you, but the kid also can be given with one more approach, saying that they are interested in you. Your next uncle is asking, hey beta, where are you going, might be giving some sense, and kids need to understand this, he should read between the lines. The uncle is a little interested in you, so he's asking, where are you going? Interested in you is a blessing, can't be a curse. But I see entire social media jargon wherever you see this guy, this uncle is all about my marriage only. He's asking. So it is made into a mockery. It is made into a kind of fun factor, and it is trolled with a lot of memes as a social culture. But somewhere, a differential approach to it and information has to be provided. These are people interested in you is a blessing in this world. The lonely, at one end, we are crying that we are lonely. And out of these billion people, nobody's trying to take care of me. And the other end, some people who are just trying to look at you, thinking where this guy is going, where is, what is he doing? And all those people were cursing. So it's like we are not clear what exactly we want. We want an attention, but we just want to be on our loneliness. We are confused with our own what we want in life. So I'm just trying to give a perspective here. Maybe the moment you start showing little interest and respect for your next neighbor who is asking you questions, saying that they are interested in you, this particular thing, if you are able to realize, your answer will start eliciting from you, saying that, hey, uncle, I'm going to this particular. Maybe he doesn't have to earn riches from it. Maybe he's going to keep a track of it, and tomorrow he might give you a better advice, saying that, hey, every day you're going there, but your father is having cough those days. He's not able to get proper medication. Why don't you go and treat your father? There might be some underlying message that they might be interested in giving you. They're not enemies in it. So somewhere, the first thing is change your approach in terms of responding back to people. And if you are asking someone, ask with a great intention, which is positive, and you keep asking, and those who are asking are giving an answer more genuinely and respected them back. Second thing is keep them safe. If you have got these people who are already identified with the suicidal tendencies and lot of baggage of mental stress and trauma, try to keep them in a safe environment. That's what even the schools are supposed to do. Their what you call windows and everything should be properly grilled. The access to the staircase should be somewhere stopped at the top floor so that they won't go to the terrace. A lot of these what you call kitchen equipment should not be given an access, like knives and forks should not be given too much easily for their access to the kids. Somewhere they should be little kept on watch. If someone is having a problem maybe for a month or so, there should be a separate teacher or team should be allocated so that closely they'll be monitored and the sharing happens. The more sharing that can happen. So these are the things which should be we should be taking care. And every time when the spiel comes up, we should indicate them that we are there for them. We are always interested to listen to them. We are trying to consciously or anxiously trying to have some time from those people who are having some issues. Now the moment they get that into their brain, maybe they really want to open up, only thing is they are not trusting you, but over a period of time they develop the trust. Bet you here, those people who are silent most of the time in the school have got the most to share about. This is what the psychology talks about.
Yes.
So tell the people that you are there. Only thing is, they might not come back today and tomorrow. Doesn't mean you are supposed to stop and lose interest in them. Your role is always to present yourself saying that, hey, mind you, I'm here for you. I'm just waiting for you to come back. This kind of positive reinforcement, if you are able to give, definitely, there's a chance that they might come back with little fast. Then help them to connect. And this is where we actually run this suicide prevention helpline. Sometimes what happens is, this is what I tell people. If you have got a great friend next to you, it is great. But what if you don't trust anybody in your next surrounding? That's where an anonymous person might be more helpful. That's where we just say we don't know who you are, where you stay, and what is the kind of trauma you're undergoing, but we just want to listen to you, provided if you are having some very big trauma in you to commit suicide and all. So that's where we developed this suicide prevention lifeline. 2004, we are very active. It can cater to people in English, Hindi. If there's a need for any other language, we have got almost like 600 psychologists. After taking a little time, we might correct the appropriate language. Finally, stay connected. There are n number of things that we can do in the stay connected thing. Example, we talk about having kind of focus groups with the system itself. When people who have got this stress and trauma, or even need not be only people with that, people who want to talk about stress and trauma at families and schools, those people can come together and talk. So this stay connected. These are the five parameters which are indicated for conducting well with the people who have got the emotional baggage. So with this, I'll just try to indicate. Thanks for bearing with my cough. Suddenly, when I go little high in my pitch, my voice doesn't allow it. But yeah, thanks for your time. Maybe if every school or even some school in Chandigarh or Punjab or any other place, if they want to work out with some model to develop a kind of toolkit for suicide prevention helpline, like suicide prevention in their school, we can actually help them out in devising some kind of protocols for their schools. It could be a
Right.
hand kind of activity. We can work together on this. And if someone doesn't have a in-house psychologist, probably for them, this particular number can be saved as a suicide prevention lifeline with them, and they can actually connect with us. So the service here pro bono, when there's a kind of referral activity, we might suggest the kid to, or the school teacher to approach that kid to some next psychologist or psychiatrist, nearby. So this is how the functionality of helpline number is as of now. So with this, I just take the pleasure of having the time with all you guys, and thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Anilji. And you have rightly called yourself as human. And whatever you have told us today, it's really, it can come from a human only. And I am telling you, after seeing the live chat, also people are also connected with you, and they enjoyed the session thoroughly. Few questions, if you allow, if you have time, we
Yeah,
can
please,
ask
please,
you
please.
right now.
Go ahead.
So one thing I would like to ask, that if somebody, even the children or some people, they have the tendency of attention seeking, are they also going through some kind of a psychological problem?
Now you need to understand.
Ji,
Okay, the psychology's golden laws are there. So
ji.
sometimes I, rather than giving a huge description, I simply use them. So there's
Mhm.
nobody in this world who is perfect or who is normal. Now, by saying this, even I'm saying I'm also the same. I might be a problematic person at one juncture in my life. Example, while doing this session, I might be excited, overexcited.
Mhm.
If you consider, psychology will give a name to it. This guy is hyperactive. It doesn't
Mhm.
mean that hyperactive behavior is actually causing a problem for me as of now. It is need of the hour. I am supposed to be excited because I'm delivering something so that I can actually ensure that maximum information gets into the other man's thought process. Now, there's a purpose behind it. So, any activity or a behavior cannot be tagged as a psychological abnormality. It has to be understood by the context in which they are operating. So, today, if
Mhm.
I'm anger, in an angry mode, it doesn't mean that I'm always tagged as a wrong person. What if I am the army general commanding 100 forces out there trying to lead a team? It might require that kind of agility in me. So it is based on the context. Now, attention seeking, now you need to understand, this is one set of, first thing I've just cleared to you. Now, coming back to this pity seeking behavior or attention seeking behavior, you need to
Mhm.
tell these things. See, we are not like the same army general is not this kid. Army general's role and age is different, and the kid here is completely different because he's in his tender age. Now you see there is a kind of growth pattern in us. So maybe there was a time where I might have become a kind of pity seeking person myself. But I learned over a period of time. I became a person who doesn't require such kind of what you call pity-seeking behavior in me. Over a period of time, I learned ki, yes, I'm self-sufficient. Over a period of time, I learned a lot of values where I just gone beyond myself and started respecting the next person and their value systems and trying to operate my body for in terms of helping them. They're going extra hand and helping the other people. So from selfish attention-seeking person to helping other people, now beyond this other people, I'm going and stuck into the moral values, highest moral values. So there's a kind of process in our personality development and in our moral development itself. So every time when you are given with some kind of behavior, there are observations in terms of what age group they are falling into. I can't give the same kind of approach. Example, if the same personality is exhibited by a person of 35 years of age, maybe I'll tell you what might be the issues. Okay, now this guy is actually not performing well in the office and trying to seek that he needs to be he needs to be pampered. That is not going to happen because it is already in the office and the office has got a system where the emotion doesn't really have a place. Now, if he is a kid of 12 years of age, then he needs that pampering and attention seeking is required for him. So there's a differential requirement for different age group and the context that they're operating with. What if I lost my like a leg, and I'm amputated? I'm crying. So I might be 35 years now. However, I am really in a deep pain and I need that kind of consoling. So it can't be treated as a problem by the behavior tag itself. It needs to be analyzed as per the context in which the whatever behavior is being exhibited and the age group they are into.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks for that answer. Another question, sir. This has been asked. Are there any cultural or social factors, or maybe demographic factors that contributes to suicidal tendency or psychological depression, and how they can be addressed within the education system?
Yes. This is very I was actually mentioning. People perceive that they understand human behavior who is sitting next to them, but the challenge lies there. The moment you say, "Yeah, I understand these people," somewhere your observation, vision has gone blurred. Okay. So the first thing you should say is, I don't know about this person, I should learn. So the first thing is there should be an interest. That's what I was stressing repeatedly. Have an interest in your next neighbor. Maybe that itself is that, the kind of thread which is going to save that person. He won't fall for a suicide because you were interested and he was able to perceive it. Hey, every time, this Anil is actually taking care of me. Now, even if he wanted to die on that day, the immediate thing it might strike in his brain is, let me talk to Anil and then tell him that I'm going to die, then I'll commit suicide. But mind you, what happens is the moment he trusted and called me up, I talked to him and I'm interested in him. Now suddenly the conversation goes, hey, why the hell you are trying to take that decision? Mind you, you are going to stay for one more day and we will talk. Now you just tell me what all problems are. Now the discussion went for a different direction. For 5 minutes of discussion, maybe the person is not taking the decision. But what I'm trying to say is the moment you have an interest, you're actually registering in their brain. There's someone who is interested in you. And what is the last prerequisite or the stage wherein they enter in is crying for help. Now, crying for help is actually looking for people out there. Now, if your simple brain map has got one person's name etched there, okay, my mother, my friend, my ex, person's name is etched there, that might find it like an anchor. So they might not commit suicide unless they actually connect with them. So this is one thing. Now, how intelligent or the well versed or professionally he's able to deal with those kind of tricky, challenging communication is altogether different thing. But the first thing is have an interest. Tell the other people that you are waiting for them to hear. They might stop in the first place. And this is the interest factor which can make a difference in suicide. So this is one thing. Second thing is when I say I don't know about this person, and when I'm saying I'm interested in this person, see what happens. Your antennas will go up. You'll start saying, let me observe what this guy is. This guy is actually from rural area and he's here in my school. Okay, maybe he has got the problems of language. See? You're finding this stress, this stuff and other stuff with those jargons. If you're trying to see him, you will find everything is existing. But for what reason it has come up? Now, maybe because of the language barrier, he's not able to communicate and make friends in the school system. So there it was like a different enjoyment he had in the school. But in this modern school, he's finding it very difficult to adjust. Now see, this was not the problem you're focusing, but your observation gradually taken you to the core reason. Now, somewhere, what you call answer has to be given at the core issue of eliminating that language barrier and give me confidence that in spite of this language barrier, you can make friends, you can achieve a lot of things in the school. So gradually, if that way, if you are able to address, here the demographics issue is being addressed. Now he might not commit suicide because he is finding lonely in the school. This is demography. Now culture. I just mentioned about this thing called what you call the male patriarchal families. No, there is this very popular Bollywood trend. Mard ko dard nahi hota. Now the question is, no, I talked about being human, right? You are first human. So male is a cultural pattern. You are in a way trying to identify them with particular gender and trying to give some kind of gender role. You're not supposed to cry. It's all a kind of hoax. We are created ourselves. So these kind of passions, which are there part of our culture, will actually hamper people to share. So male person might not be sharing and showing his aura as if he's all right. And this is the very biggest problem. There's also a movie on this, like everybody says I am fine. See why the 1.64 lakh suicides when everybody is fine. And definitely there is not everything is fine. There's something very wrong which is happening around. So somewhere the cultural patterns which are actually fixated, in the societal culture might be coming to us in fashion and fade in social media. We are learning which are not really desirable. I told you, right? When it comes to these suicidal tendencies, this is how it has to be. I should not be sharing my personal things to anybody because the society is not to be trusted. And I've seen this particular trend coming too much. Nowadays, I counsel at least 10 people. 5, 6 people are so much concerned about their identities, their personal agendas, and they just camouflaged everywhere. Example, I say, hi, this is my name Anil. And tomorrow I realize, oh, he's not Anil, he's something else only. Now I see some image. Tomorrow I realize, oh, this is not the image of him. So everywhere they're actually not able to project themselves. Every time there's a kind of inferiority complex. Now what I'm trying to refer, you asked about culture. The social media's culture, I'm trying to see and relate, it is completely creating different identity for the same person. So they are not able to manage their own differential identities. So they're finally creating a lot of complexities around them. There's nothing called truth up front, like in school system, when I was working in Navodaya, I am supposed to talk to kids, right? And I'm supposed to teach this personality development in them, this way psychological development, right? What should I be teaching them? There's no curriculum for it. There's no agenda in terms of lesson 1 of Charles Chobra, nothing. What should I do now? What should I do? Okay. Education somewhere, the value education in Indian context is very well, like drafted long back. That was given through Panchatantra story, right? And it was the model of, the indoctrination of the knowledge and value system in people. That was supposed to be the ultimate education. So I used to go back and refer the same thing. See, what is the education for? And suddenly people become bland and say, this is for good knowledge and getting good jobs and settling in life and what. And finally we say, no. Shilena Shobhate Vidya. The entire education system is actually asking you to make your characterization, character building. Now, this character building is a very challenging thing. Nobody has got any schedule for it. Okay, if you score 10 marks in this thing, no, it is an introspective activity. So while you're in a school system, it is the best time, because I'm saying if you observe, you learn about your neighbor. What if you observe about your own self? Then that becomes like a swadhyaya. So there's a concept called the Eastern psychology. People are, like completely negating, and they are not even understanding anything of it. Everybody says Sigmund Freud, id-ego or superego kind of stuff. People are easily buying it. Somewhere I'm saying, there is a way of understanding psychology in Indian context itself because you are living in this country. Now, if you understand this match that you are living here and understand this culture, there's a kind of synchronization or harmony that you can establish. You study something from the social media, you try to conduct yourself in a very interior rural ambience, then you see a lot of fluctuation. Why nobody is accepting my whatever personality, what is wrong with me, my parents are not with me. There's a complexity. And I'm asking people to completely forego their own learnings or challenging behavior for the sake of culture or anything. I'm trying to say there's a kind of having a dialogue with the systems around you by your own learnings. That process is somewhere missing because we are teaching something which might not be so much practical in the life, and we are saying the education is over, now you got the subject certificate. So this gap has to be filled. So it now it can't go only with the English or anything. It should go in all the parameters like political, economical, cultural, all these parameters. We should give a kind of sense how you are going to conduct, what are actually the life challenges, and how your behavior and your perception is going to make a difference in receiving these learnings inside of you. Now, the whole process in this session or anywhere, if you go, it's all said in simple caption for psychology that there's a learning. So you should be very conscious in terms of what kind of learning you're having. Now, the
Right.
second thing is unlearning, because there are certain things which might have gone wrong. Example, you just felt that men should be like this, macho and very rugged and should not be crying and make people cry. Oh, this is wrong. Okay, this particular thing, I'm unlearning it. Now, the third thing would be relearn. There's another thing that you are supposed to learn. Now, this journey will never stop till your last breath. So even if you're getting it in office, the same thing. In this office, what you have learned, what is that is actually causing a problem? What is the new thing you are supposed to relearn? So learn, unlearn, and relearn. This is the simple principle. You just play it, your life will be through.
Ji. But Anilji, it is very difficult to unlearn. If somebody believes something, it is very difficult to unlearn that. But
Here,
Hanji,
definitely,
yes.
I agree that. I'll give you some perspective here. Why this unlearning is becoming very tough. It's a right question and very challenging question here. Imagine if I'm the person who is talking about what you call having a disciplinary life. Okay.
Right.
Now, every kid has got every teacher will definitely follow on this particular topic with me. Kids these days are not having this. Oh, great. In my days, again, the story goes on. I said, no, what's happening here is what is the see kids if you I'm just trying to once again go back on the timeline of development, life development, wherein kid will mostly start his observation and learn from following an ideal personality in front of him. So the mother becomes a great what you call first what you call person to be observed as a model behavior. Now obviously both the parents now comes to their family, now comes to their next neighbors and relatives, then comes school. See, I'm just keeping that school aside. Imagine if I am a parent who is saying you should be disciplined, and I'm already doing alcohol, I'm doing the wife battering, I'm shouting at my wife with all the very harsh language and everything. And I'm telling the kid, you should be happy, you should be what you call great personality, you should be having discipline. Now, why I'm giving this particular reference here is learning and unlearning, right? Why this is becoming different is first thing is you are giving a learning by presenting yourself. So I am the person who is without saying I'm asking you to learn by observing me itself. So you learn something about me. Now I am the same guy who is saying no, this is not how you should. There's a conflict.
Ji.
So I'm giving the input of learning as A. Suddenly you give and prescribe a medicine saying that if you want a great life, don't drink, be polite, be respectful, be respecting women. Everything is contra. Now, how this contra can adjust, understood by that simple, young mind. This is happening for everybody. Now, in the same process, if you go to a school, sorry, many of the teachers might be, even whatever. It doesn't mean I'm not a teacher, even I'm a teacher, but I'm just trying to tell you, this is what I've seen personally. Having an interest in next neighbor is looks like, okay, I know this. We're already great counselors. We have already gone for 15 days of training and we became counselors. I really look at them. The moment you say these words, it looks like the audacity is reflected there. You felt everything is learned and now there's nothing to learn. And I'm definitely indicating this could be one personality where you won't be serious concerned about the kids' development. The interest factor cannot be delivered. Why? It is a lifelong process. For example, you have this audacious word and immediately you might not be able to care for the kid. And school systems are huge number of kids. Now, unless you have a genuine interest in the kid, you won't be able to go to them and talk to them and take some feed from them. Now, in the school system, what happens is monotonizing of the work. See what happens when I first enter into the school. I might be a fresh teacher. Hey kid, how are you? Come to me. Talk to me. Let me tell you what all problems you have got. Let me clarify. That enthusiasm gradually died, maybe because of our not having the self-conscious anthos. After 1 month, I became so much engrossed into my own sessions delivery. Like I have got the timeline of 10, 15 sessions, and this is the kind of 1 month I have got, and oh, so many holidays, now I should finish it off, rush it off. Now your interest of human factor is almost like nullified. This is starting, and over a period of time, you become a rote learning person. You know every of the problem to be solved on the board without any practice. Now even the practice has gone down. You are having some relax. Come back to the board and start saying it. Sometimes what happens is your behavior became sometimes disconnected with the kids' actual learning and the needs. It became only okay. I'm teaching math. I'm only math teacher. That is not my role. Now what is happening? A person, though is saying I'm learning, but in the learning itself, they're entrapped. They just say, I'm a math teacher. Why should I be bothered about his mental health? Gone. Gone. Absolutely gone. And the second thing is, there's no need. I have seen this not with one particular case study. We were almost like 600 psychologists those days. And every school counselor used to call me up and say, hey, this is like big help for me because they are not even accepting. I used to tell them, hey, you are a psychologist. And as a psychologist with learned personality and masters in every behavior, if you are not able to adjust in that school system, study what kind of scenario the kid might be undergoing, what kind of pressure it might be. Like, hey, just I told you, right? Disciplinary thing is not the way how you actually enact also matters. You can't talk about some philosophies which might be completely odd and say the kid has to become a great personality. Somewhere people are like they're very digressing what you call theories of thought which have been proposed by internet. Nowadays everybody reads and they say, I know it. But when it comes to practice, hardly even one particular parameter is fully followed up. Example, what I teach in the school is only one principle: just say truth. And it might find a little awkward for you, but yes, I'm not in a court of law. I'm not even a police, or I'm not in the outside market selling any product. I'm in a school setup. For me, this particular principle can be actually 99 plus can be followed, isn't it? What is going to be wrong if the kid says truth? We say, it is very tough to live in this world without lying. Fine, all your context I'm not discussing here. I'm only talking about the kid and the school system. What is going to be wrong for that kid, except he is actually camouflaging his own identity and try to do all mischievous things or mishap kind of things in life. That simple principle, when I say, there is only an argument from all the teachers. I said, why we are not able to build a little consensus for the sake of children's learning? No, my agenda has to be proven. It's like a conflict of egos fighting in the school, putting the creativity in terms of winning a war in the staff room, than actually thinking, hey, tell me, Anil, what kind of activity we can conduct in terms of telling this creative thinking for those kids. That kind of creativity is nowhere existing. And I'm like shocked to see that. And this is not only for the schools, even for the biggest companies. Go and imagine if I'm sitting in front of my laptop, I'm having a kind of side view saying that, oh, my other colleague is coming, I should change my screen so that he will feel great about my work. I'm busy.
Yeah.
What you're engaged in, then do you think you're actually what you are actually being recruited for? That kind of work will have any creativity input from you. Because day in, day out, you're only planning what dialogue should I use against my this colleague, and that particular guy told me this thing. I should actually make one more spiel so that I can make him ashamed in front of 4 people because he also did the same thing for me in the cafeteria. If this is the kind of running of thoughts happening in you, then do you think you're going to deliver justice there? If this is the kind of personality, as a mature so-called personality, you're trying to teach your kids or handhold some of the kids outside, do you think you're creating a great world out there? I mean, the questions do come to such a level wherein do the parents are ready for parenting or suitable for parenting? There's so much to dwell upon. Only thing is, the moment you say, let me understand what this parenting is all about, teach me what I need to learn so that I can make a better parenting. Okay. Whatever shortfalls you have got, everything is right now washed away because you're ready for learning, right? So there's a need for you, there's a possibility that the kid is going to have a great life. But the receptivity is not there. You say, okay, all established, I know what all I'm supposed to do. With this kind of ego, if you say, okay, I'm teaching so many kids and making great personalities, I'm sure he will be one more, another replica of what kind of teacher's personality is, because that is being replicated there. Now the same egos will go and there will be clashes and all. I say, hey, I'm not responsible for it. Oh, this is what it is. People are learning anyway.
Right. So very thought-provoking session for today, sir. And with this, what you just said, I think there should be consistency and responsibility in terms of being a
Definitely,
teacher
definitely.
or
Yeah,
maybe a guardian or parents. For
yeah.
them, it is really very much essential. And at the same time, I must add to this, if you agree to this, the spiritual kind of an alignment towards the youth will bring some kind of clarity towards their life and stress
Sometimes
management.
I'll definitely, give you this thing. Whatever, I mean, this is the life learning of me also, okay? Adding to
Mhm.
this section here.
Ji, 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 ji.
Uh, Recently, what is happening is, I mean, you can quote these words in a bigger platforms too, and I'm
Mhm.
not at all, backing off myself. When I'm saying, I never say anything outside because I don't feel like going outside and saying something and proving myself to get a million shares or something. I said it's all no, I'm not into that soft skill development trend. I'm into the core personality development trend. That's what I wanted. Here,
Ji.
what I'm actually trying to say here is maybe we are making the world more complex. This is what my observation is. What is this
Mhm.
complexity I'm talking about? Now we are playing with words,
Ji,
because it
ji.
is a global thing. So we started playing with words, like every time there's a terminology, new terminology, every time it changes. But mind you, you are supposed to teach one single principle or value for the kid. There you are
Ji.
still a failure. I wanted to make people responsible, right? Okay. No, I wanted to make them actually, people go little what you call conducive to the environment. I wanted people to understand sustainability. I want people to learn resilience. That everything you say, but you're still not able to say the other guy saying that, hey, today is actually a winter. Why you require that fan simply, like fanning you? Why don't you switch it off? That you are not able to achieve. The kid still puts the fan on because the teacher also wanted on, because there is a kind of clash between one teacher and second one. If I switch on, the other person will taunt me or something. So their behavior and the ecosystem and the complexity still remains the same. But today we
Right.
talk about today's thing is, we should actually have this kind of review in the ethnic. We should actually understand what the issues are going on. Then we make all reports and everything, and finally we engage in terms of submitting another project, saying that this is what is being done, this is what the achievement is done, documentation is complete, clap, 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 and go away. Kids might be the same. So somewhere we are going with this kind of, a kind of what you call, over documentation and less than practice implementation. We are not putting effort there. And these personal factors of, having an interest in other people, seeing their transformation, there we are not seriously interested in terms of providing an evidence-based kind of, approach. We simply want to write the reports, doesn't want to give any evidence. Maybe we'll try to lie there again. So why should we lie? The moment you lie, everything is gone for a toss.
Mhm.
So this terminology kind of stuff is what I'm referring to, even as spirituality
I
or
got
as
it. I
religion
got it.
or faith or anything. See, ultimately, I'll tell you, the
Ji.
this particular statement itself. Sometimes we need not learn the whole scriptures which are available in every other faith. It might be a simple tagline which is saying, okay, this education is for building personality or characterization or Sheila. Now that itself gives me a huge, area to operate. Am I building myself as a better personality?
Yeah.
Some people
Right.
talk about business, riches, whatever I want, I will possess and all stuff. But the underlying current is not properly understood. Then the education of teacher itself is actually in a way misfired, maybe for the social reasons. Now you again create one more thing. Now this is like well-being, this is mental health and all this stuff. I'm just trying to say maybe we can confine with few words. Because what is happening, why actually, actually giving a digress kind of approach to is the more terminology we give to kids,
Uh-huh.
sometimes maybe for the small kid of 5, 6, 10 years, we are actually confusing with so much of words. Example, today you tell me trigonometry, and if I miss the first class, the next all 10 classes are gone for a toss. Now, why you actually bring in one more topic and one more agenda, and then again it looks like a task kind of classes itself. Than that, you just limit to confine to your own structure. Okay, in class seventh, I'll achieve these milestones in kids development. In class seventh, I'll achieve these milestones in thing. Now you achieve with your own structured approach and deliver it. Now every time, okay, that teacher already delivered for 6 months, right? So I should make a difference here. So this is going to be a kind of, what you call life skills is transformed into soft skills, or soft skills is transformed into employability skills. And
Ji.
that doesn't actually make the real difference for the kid. Maybe it creates more confusion. So lesser the jargon and making people only focused on their life learning. If you are able to focus alone on that, it's going to be great. Sometimes the more you give, example, the spirituality thing actually, which creates these little what you call challenging note for me is because it is like it can be interpreted in a huge spectrum. Now suddenly the moment you say spirituality, yes, in my religion, it starts into a kind of religious identity. We wanted to develop humans, but over a period of time, we try to make them oriented to some kind of clusters everywhere. Now, again, these people have to come back and it becomes very tough. Now, that's where I started saying probably the whole exercise in, whichever I do in whichever, platform, I try to bring them to a common identity called human. From there you go, but you come back because you know the origin. We are just human. Now, if it is spiritual, I don't know. Spiritual or not, I'm not even concerned. But tell me, are you able to, exercise your great human concern and human, humanity, activity around you? If you're able to do it, then you're spiritual also. If you're able to do it, you are religious also. If you are able to do it, you are socially successful. So somewhere this is what the agenda is. Somewhere give little of identity to those people to play with and see the kind of development popping out from it and try to interpret back to them, not the way you wanted to see it, but whatever the kid achieves, now you try to analyze and give it back to them. Okay, it looks like you have really successfully conducted yourself in the social sphere. You really conducted well in the social and spiritual sphere also, because you help a lot of people, you never lie, all these parameters you can actually interpret. Than giving, okay, I come up with a new concept. Now let me take you to the art of another thing. Now there's art of another thing will confuse again another set of people. So just simple education is for building characterization. Now teacher should be that facilitator to teach those kids in what kind of development they are milestone they are achieving. That reflection, the teacher has to give and start facilitating in the whole process for going and achieving the next milestone in a very smooth fashion, wherein they are feeling secure. Okay, if I even if I type enter or any other thing, my computer will not go wrong because my teacher told I am there to take care of it. So I'll try all the keys. Right. That's where you should be, like a facilitator giving assurance, go ahead, I'm there for you, and I'll tell you if at all something goes wrong so that you can learn better. So
thank you, sir. Thank you. Very well explained, sir. And as a humble human being, as a humble person, I have also learned many things today, and so has our audience. Thank you for being here, and thank
I
you
really feel apologetic because in between my tone has gone for a toss. I could not speak because I don't usually speak loud except for the sessions. So thanks for hearing all the audience also in this wonderful time that you have given for me. Thanks for happening in my life too.
We would love to have more such sessions in future with you, sir. Thank you so much. Take care.